Hello there folks, I'm the Lon Chaney Reviewer and welcome to Silent Film Saturday, episode number 33. We're still counting down Halloween season. Next week I'm going to do one more horror, creepy movie-oriented review. This week, though, I'm talking about the Lon Chaney classic, The Hunchback of Notre Dame, based off of the book by Victor Hugo. The film was directed by Wallace Worsley, starring Lon Chaney, Patsy Ruth Miller, and of course, Norman Carey. And I think I just said Lon Chaney Sr. But anyway, just look at this package. This is from Image Entertainment and Black Hawk Films. Is this a really interesting set? I like the cover because it's not showing the Hunchback in this cover, which is really interesting. It's actually a poster for the film, I guess. So, and it says Ultimate Edition. Here's the back. I also have to show you an insert, which is really cool. Some information about the film. Mastered in high definition from an original multi-tinted print. New symphonic score compiled by Donald Hansberger, adapted and conducted by Robert Israel. Insert essay and audio essay or commentary track by Michael F. Blake, who's essentially the Chaney expert. Reproduction of the 20-page original souvenir program, which is in here. 3D gallery stills with 3D glasses. Some of you don't like 3D at all. Yeah, I hate 3D for the most part, but whatever. It's another feature. Gallery of 2D stills. Alice and Alec, a 1913 Universal film, which Chaney plays two roles, and one of them a hunchback, which is interesting. Behind the scenes footage of Chaney out of makeup on the Hunchback set. I posted that on the Facebook page a few days ago. So, this is not one of my favorite Chaney films. It's not my top 5. Is that a bad thing? No, it's not. I mean, it just isn't in my top 5. I'm not saying it's a bad film or anything, but it's one of those films where I'm more willing to have criticisms about it than others. But let me talk about some things that I really loved. Of course, the sets. Wow, this was a super jewel production, as they called them back in the day. When Universal was like a smaller studio, which is amazing because Universal has theme parks around the world now. But back in the day, Universal was a smaller studio. And it's actually interesting when you think about it now, because just recently they excuse me. They recently had a film reach the $1 billion club, Jurassic Park, because Jurassic Park back in '93 grossed over $900 million, and then it grossed another 100 or so million, or a couple million, to get to $1 billion, which I'm happy to see that Steven Spielberg has a $1 billion movie and Universal has a $1 billion movie, and it happens to be one of my favorite films. Yeah. That's pretty cool. I'm sorry, that's a little side note that I found interesting. Yeah, Universal was a small studio back in its day, and they would once a year have like a big production. And Hunchback was their big production. Lon Chaney was also involved with the Hunchback production, but I believe because of financing and rights, he couldn't produce the film on its own because of, scandals going on in the film industry, so I believe he was the one that took it to Universal. He and his agent, and they helped him. And they got director Wallace Worsley, who's known for The Blind Bargain, Ace of Hearts, and of course, The Penalty, which I reviewed as the 4th episode of Silent Film Saturday many moons ago. One of my favorite Chaney films, actually. I think Worsley's a capable director. He's a decent filmmaker. Or was. Of course, the sets are gigantic. You have the cathedral set, and they use that on a lot of their sets, and the European square, and they would disguise crowds of people, even though they didn't have that many people. Costumes. It's very nice to look at, and the print looks pretty good too, although I've heard people say they can do a little bit more, but I'm not going to complain. And of course you have Chaney in the film. Chaney is magnificent, although I will say this, I think I like the Charles Laughton version better. I don't normally say things like that, but I don't know, I think I think, you know, yeah, with a silent film, it's really amazing not to hear them, but at the same time, to hear a character suffer, like to hear them suffer, is one of the most painful things as a movie-going audience you can experience. But that's not Chaney's fault or anything. That's just different mediums, and I think Chaney still delivers a fine performance as the Hunchback, and his makeup is still really effective. And I was actually at a comic store not too long ago, and they sold a really nice figure of the Hunchback. I didn't buy it because I just didn't, but it was a really nice looking figure that, you know, it's from the same people who do like the Frankenstein, Dracula, Wolfman figures. So they're really cool. Patsy Ruth Miller is a decent enough leading lady, you know. It's not really amazing or anything. She never really made me go, oh my god. Except maybe in the, obviously after Chaney is whipped, but that's also because Chaney is so good in that scene. He's like an animal, you know, just, you know, who's quenching, you know, who just wants water. And it's a really touching and beautiful scene. Best scene in the whole movie, in my opinion. And then you have Norman Carey, who is also in The Phantom of the Opera and The Unknown, playing similar characters. And it's just fun to see him on screen. He's not the best actor in the world, but it's just funny just to see him in a movie. It's like, oh, look, it's Norman Carey. How you doing, buddy? It's like once you've watched enough of these movies, you go, oh my god, I haven't seen you in so long, man. I felt that way when I watched To Be or Not to Be, when I found out that Sig Ruman was in the movie, and I'm like, yes. Yeah, I'm sorry going on a lot of tangents, but there's not much I can really say about this film. I think Bill Torrance was the actor's name, or Eddie Torrance. I forgot his name. Let me just double check. I apologize for not being prepared. Ernest Torrance, pardon me. I really apologize about that. He plays Klumpen in the film, and he was also Steamboat Bill Sr. in Steamboat Bill Jr., one of my favorite Keaton films, and in my opinion, Steamboat Bill Sr. is probably the best, easily the best, Keaton supporting character. The other performances are fine. You have, you know, the Frollo character is kind of, you know, is a kind of deceiver type of character. You have some good guys in the movie who, you know, oh, do this for God, and, oh, you know, that sort of thing. Chaney's death is well handled. I don't think I'm really spoiling anything, because if you're a Lon Chaney fan, you know that he ends up dying in most of his films, or otherwise. But for me, that was really well handled. I love the scenes where the Hunchback is maniacal and a little, like, he feels like he's a little, not evil, but maniacal. But you do see the tenderness in Chaney's performance as well, and that's what Chaney was able to do so well, is that he's one of those actors able to capture the complexity of a character like Eric the Phantom, or Alonso the Armless, or Quasimodo. As Quasimodo, he's magnificent. I would definitely rank that as one of his finest performances, because he's able to make you cry for this character. He has every right to hate the world. He's been shunned in a clock tower, he's deaf, he's partially blinded, he's not a very attractive human being. You know, the woman that he loves doesn't necessarily love him back, and it's just really depressing in some ways. And that's really all I have to say. It's a really good movie. It's just the movie is like 2 hours long, and when you have a silent movie that goes on for 2 hours, you need it to warrant that length. And I don't think it 100% warrants that length. However, in my opinion, Hunchback is a great vehicle for Chaney, because Chaney is able to exhibit his acting chops, and he's able to become an international star thanks to this movie. You know, there was all like stepping stones, like The Miracle Man, you have Penalty, and then you had this film. This film made him huge. Made him a gigantic, gigantic star. And that's all I really have to say today, folks. That was The Hunchback of Notre Dame. Next week, I shall be talking about The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. See you next week.